you read a lot of things about like people on their deathbeds and stuff, and it's like no one ever talks about the amount of money they made, right? It's about the experience they had, the time they spent with their families. Like, that's the one thing you cannot put a price tag on. I tell everybody this, like, you cannot put a price tag on your time.
Good concentration equals good shooting. Good shooting does not equal good concentration.
You have to play to your strengths and to your given, what you've been given.
You can't try to be something you're not. Jim
Braddock was the boxer's name. Anyways, but he made this marvelous comeback and was beating everybody, and he was winning, and I freaking sobbed, man, just because I love that victory,
right?
Rudy. Yeah, exactly. I guess everybody likes that.
Yeah, I think when you use the word trophy, I think that people automatically start thinking of like, oh, this is
size. I think it's 100% negative context. I think we should get rid of the word trophy.
When I say monument, what do you think of?
I have my big black bear rug, like 7x7, and all these like toddlers and little kids, they come running in and they're like, oh,
a bear.
Yeah, and they're sticking their hand in its mouth and they're feeling the teeth. They're like, oh, sharp.
When you're presenting it in the way that you're describing it, that it's not so much about the size of this animal, or it's a monument to you. This is a piece of history in your life.
Rolling.
Rolling.
Okay.
Hey, I leave the hashtags to you. Is that cool?
All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. I am here on the show with Eric Chesser. Oh, check that out.
Oh, wow. Is that a big blacktail?
Blacktail. Look at that, baby.
Look at
that is handsome.
Look at the bases on that thing.
He is strutting down the road here.
Yeah, he doesn't give a dang about anything.
That is a sweet post. That's on Instagram. Gregory Ford, Oregon grown. He's got some great posts of some great couple blacktails. So, just wanted to say, we're on Gritty Bowman here in Mountain Ops World headquarters with Eric Chesser from HUSHlife, and
HUSHlife,
and we've got with us Jordan Harbertson.
Give me something more. That was really poor. It's like we've got the most amazing, incredible elk hunter of all time, the man himself, the legend, the one and only Eric Chesser from HUSHlife, and we've also got Jordan. Like, that's kind of how it went down.
Jordan, you can take it that way, but I didn't mean it that way.
Just saying, man.
I need to tone down your microphone. Are you going deaf?
I feel like if Casey was on the podcast right now, you would be like, the long range hunter, the man that gets it done, the guy that brings it home, my best friend, Casey, Mountain Man Harbertson, or no, Mountain Warrior.
There, I just muted him.
Yeah,
how's that?
He's out. See ya.
I'm gone. Just kidding, everybody.
Just kidding. No, Jordan, I wasn't finished. I was going to say.
I was just kidding.
We're talking Jordan Harbertson himself, the man, one of the men behind Mountain Ops and the genius of supplements, and a man that no one can argue with about style.
No, I don't think that's something that anybody wants to take on. And
I saw Eva Shockey wear one of those.
She rocked it last year.
The Mountain Ops ugly sweater.
Dude, they're back. This was last year's edition, and we've got a brand new design that's coming online. Casey, is that tomorrow?
See, Dwayne and I talked about this. I have a sweet Vortex hat that will complement
the ugly sweater?
The beanie.
Wait, it's the Vortex beanie, like with the fluff ball?
Yeah, and I wear that thing all the time. It's bad to the bone. I've done a few videos with it recently because I feel that it says, Brian, you're awesome. And if I wear that with that sweater, it just says I'm confident in who I am. That's what Aaron says it says.
It basically says to everyone else, hey, don't be jealous because you don't got swagger like me.
Yeah, that says I'm ready. The ugly sweater party at any time.
Hot cocoa, anyone? Like where's my mug?
It's that time of year again.
Eric is also notorious for his style as well. So I don't want to sit here and take away from the big notorious E himself over here, Big E. But he is known for some of the best leggings
money can buy.
He has the top. He always rocks. He likes a high top. He wants to protect
high tops.
Protect the ankles, right, Eric?
There's snow out there, man.
Yeah.
There's snow.
There's ice. There's.
Eric, no one can.
We haven't even got to the best part, which I know you're getting to.
I was just gonna say, Eric, you have your own style. I mean, 100%, and you have created trends in Utah and other areas. I think single-handedly, Hush brought back the flat brim in the hunting community.
Oh man,
I don't know. It's a toss-up between you and Griffith.
Yeah,
Zach
Griffith was wearing the flat bills. Oh man, his video he made on how to bend a flat bill hat. Oh my gosh! If you guys haven't seen that, I can't remember what it's titled, but and we get I get the same stuff, like sell more bent brim, and we have a huge variety of bent brim, but you can take a flat bill hat and bend it. I mean, you can.
It's possible.
You can.
And I heard that they were only sent, overseas years ago, flat bill. I don't know all the history. I haven't done all the research, but they would send them flat because they'd fit in a box better. Smaller box.
Interesting.
Well, and
that makes sense.
Get them to the destination and bend them.
So get them to the destination and then bend them.
Yeah, that seemed to work for me. But yeah, I don't know. My style is somewhat, I kind of follow a lot of fitness people.
Yeah.
The gym life, and joggers came in style, I guess. I don't know, maybe. But
you and Cameron's been sporting the white legging kind of.
Yeah, Eric has Cam's is a little bit more like
a little tighter.
See it all,
Yeah.
He likes to be a little bit more lax. Like
you leave some up to the imagination.
Just a little.
Yeah. He wants to keep the ladies enticed and excited, but not like we're like, oh well, I already know now. Like,
yeah.
The fun's just begun.
The hair too. That is absolutely that's unique.
It's one of a kind.
It's becoming like a job to maintain this. People don't know what I go through to maintain this right here.
Yeah.
And it really makes me wonder how girls or any guys that have long hair do it.
Yeah.
I mean, my hair
you
is
just have it right there
curly.
in the back, though.
It's just in the back. I'm going bald. It was like the last ditch effort to have hair style.
With the hat on, it looks like you actually do have quite a bit of hair.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is the first time I did it, it was inspired by Chuck Liddell, MMA fighter. And I had always shaved my head very short at that time. I was like, I'm going to, shave a Chuck Liddell, I called it, into my head, and which was just like a strip from the front to the back. Well, it's going so quick on the front, it was really cool in the back, and I wore it. I did it at nighttime because I cut my own hair. Save so much money. I cut my own hair, bring all that kind of stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do the Chuck Liddell. I did it in the night with the plan to buzz it off before I went anywhere the next day. I decided, all right, whatever, I'll wear it today, and people started complimenting my hair. I have not got a compliment on my hair at that time for years. I was just a buzzed head. No one ever was like, "You have a great haircut."
Like you look,
but
like
I
Mr.
did.
Clean.
The difference was just minimal between the Chuck Liddell part and the sides, and all of a sudden people said, "Hey, I like your hair. You pull that off pretty good." And then before you know it, I got, "Hey, are you an MMA fighter? You must be a fighter." It was really funny how it went hand in hand. And I'm like, "No, I'm not a fighter. Why do you think that?" "Oh, because you have a mohawk."
Mm-hmm.
So then the patch in the back that has now evolved into the neck warmer was a complete joke to begin with. I was like, all right, so I already got the Chuck Liddell. It's getting kind of long.
Right.
I'll just shorten it from, about mid-head forward. And then it started to kind of get long and spiky, and, people would notice it, comment. It just kind of brought up good conversation, and I let it go.
It's signature, dude.
Now it's the neck warmer. Like, what is that? I don't
Yeah,
even know.
people refer to it as the rat tail, and it is not.
No, definitely.
That is not.
This is on another level.
You did you have a rat tail at some point?
Growing up as a kid, I'm sure. Yeah, I've got pictures of me with like the mullet style haircut and all that buzz sides.
Do you ever braid the neck warmer?
I did twice. I was competing in fitness shows. I've done some men's physique type of shows, and I did cornrows. 3 of them.
Was it cool?
Oh, it was so cool. But those things hurt, man. Have you ever had someone put cornrows on your head?
No. I've watched my sisters got them.
It requires you to be able to grow hair.
Well, I could do that. I could do that in the back. Hey, you should ought to try it, man. Me and Brian can do it together.
I could probably pull off. I grow mean set of hair from the ears down, kind of.
He'd look like the the sensei, guy that's
Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal, yeah, but with gray hair.
5'10",
yeah,
and significantly smaller.
Significantly smaller than Seagal. The neck warmer is something that,
but just as clueless.
Oh, it's completely as clueless. But the neck warmer is something that
I like Steven Seagal.
Just for the record, in case Steven Seagal is listening,
Stacy comes after me.
Let it be known that he likes Steven Seagal. I like what's the guy's name? Van Damme.
Yeah,
Jean-Claude.
Jean-Claude.
Yeah.
Guy's always been huge for me.
How about that commercial where they got him doing the splits, on the road
with the trucks? Yeah, and he just sat there the whole time and just
insanity. I can do the splits, sort of.
That was and
I'd love to see that.
And see that
I
commercial.
can do the splits except for like the last 12 inches.
Except for the last one.
Just bottomed out.
Yeah, I bottomed out a little early, but
help.
You see my daughters; they're amazing.
That's so awesome.
So, Eric, for people who may not know who you are, you're Eric Chesser.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about you, and you've been on the podcast before, so this isn't for a lot of people, but we get new listeners all the time that come in and check out the podcast, so they just kind of pick up where we're leaving off, where the new shows are, and so tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a part of Hushin' YouTube, so the last podcast we did was with me, Casey Levere, and Brian, so we did a podcast together up there at the Total Archery Challenge with you guys were there.
We were there too, yeah.
You were in the room.
We're all
you were not mic'd up.
That's where most of the best episodes are done, is in the hotel room with Gritty Bowman. Yeah,
that, by the way, is a really good episode, and we got tons and tons of positive feedback from that.
I see the comments still. I'll find a comment on a recent video. Hey, I heard about you guys on the Gritty Bowman podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The motivation and inspiration that podcast has spread for entrepreneurship and just positivity in general was huge.
You guys
have
fun. Really just done a great job, building your brand, and we were talking about this the other night with Corey Jacobson, how talking about entrepreneurship and business, and how a lot of all of us kind of come together around the same time, starting our own businesses in the outdoor industry. And we've all grown a lot. And it's funny that we like to hang out, too, and collaborate and everything. And I think it's a case of all ships rise together.
Oh, for sure. That's what's so cool about digital content, whether it's a podcast, an audio version, a YouTube video, or maybe even a social media platform like Instagram or Facebook. When you come together and you collaborate and do stuff like this, or maybe you hunt together, like you said, you just rise with the tide, and you kind of both introduce your audience to each other, and it's a win-win. And it's it's not a competition like I'd say the hunting industry has been for years. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's just more, hey, if we all help each other out and we all come together and we have the same goals, and we could totally help each other out, and everyone just grows together. It's cool.
It's something that when talking about the industry is kind of new. I would honestly say that it's for a long time, and there's still that perception that it's them against us and me against you, and this kind of like, we've even had podcasts where we've talked about brand against brand. I wear this and you wear that, so like we can't even hunt together. Like it gets to that point where it's so sad. Where I think, Brian, you talk about the ships and the harbor. There's this harbor, and within that are many ships, right? Mm-hmm. And the harbor is technically a safe place, but as that tide rises, it rises all ships. And so that's the thing. We want everybody to come into the harbor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Come on in. This is a fun place. This is I think when you can have that, and Eric, it's funny. We'll kind of talk later about how Eric and I came to know each other. We've known each other long before Mountain Ops, actually. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting how that positivity, just that culture, when you cultivate that with individuals like ourselves sitting here, and you have that, it's so cool to be a part of that, and so it's so refreshing too.
Yeah,
because otherwise, there's a lot of negativity and ego, and we talked about it, on the podcast before. But when you can kind of check those at the door and set that aside, opportunity for everything is there.
I am better than you, but other than that, I don't
want to say this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
No, actually, people know I shot a bigger wolf than you did this year.
Yeah. You've shot a bigger wolf than me. Yeah, duh. Like that was. Hey,
I can't really
have to give it to
I shot a bigger elk.
Dude, I have to give it to Brian because that wolf with the bow. That's very unheard of. You know, that's a you pound your chest for that one. That was awesome.
That sort of makes up for the completely botched elk hunt.
But yeah, like how many elk did you kill this year?
It's shaped like
it's still ongoing,
shaped
right?
like an O or a goose egg.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the Oregon Ducks logo. Is that kind of what it looks like?
Sort of looks like that.
Yeah, mine looks a lot more like the Illinois or something like that, or just like a one. I got my first elk this year. It's pretty cool. Brian didn't get any.
I did shoot 2 mule deer.
Brian didn't get any.
Yes,
Jordan
you
got
did.
one, and I got.
Oh, get ready for this. This is the topper.
It's kind of shaped like a Z, but it has some round at the top. Oh, 2. Yeah, the one upper. There's always the one upper, right?
That's the elk killer, though.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you about this, Eric, because I got to follow your show. You did some hunts this year. Whenever I got a chance, I would steal over and watch some YouTube videos on the Hush channel. And one of the videos that I saw that I thoroughly enjoyed was one where somebody tried to kick you off of public land.
Oh, yeah. That thing went viral.
Dude, that was a cool video. And, man, if you're the old guy that was, like, being a shyster and that video played...
Yeah, he'll never find it. Dude was so old. He doesn't.
He has no idea what YouTube is.
YouTube. What are you talking about? And it's so funny because what you don't see in the video, you never see the guy because I didn't want to present the camera in his face. And just to kind of backpedal a little bit, just so
tell us the story.
Yeah. All right. So I'm hunting some land, public land. I'm hunting an area that is very checkerboard between private properties, public lands, and also CWMU units here in Utah.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
Which is private land that is its own unit. It's
being managed.
It's allotted its own tags. Your general season tag does not qualify to hunt the CWMU. So
you have to get a special tag for CWMU.
Exactly.
Specifically.
So it's like, these people are hunting private. This guy's hunting CWMU, and I'm hunting public. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on, and it's very checkerboard. And if you don't know where you're at, you're going to get in trouble. And it really scares a lot of people away.
Yeah, because you don't want to get caught for trespassing and stuff. I mean, it's
even chance it.
Yep.
So we use Onyx Maps, man. That tool has come in handy so many times, year after year, on my hunts.
It's not about just topographical map and seeing where the goalies are and where to go. In today's world, and especially in a lot of areas, you need to know the boundaries between public and private and so forth. And not just public and private, but BLM, Forest Service, like different wilderness.
Yep.
What are all the designations? Because there's different rules that apply in different states for those different types of land holdings.
Yeah, every state is so different, and that's why that Onyx Map, that phone app that I use, is so important to have on you at all times. If you're going to go out and hunt an area you're unfamiliar with, you better have that thing in your pocket. And this video, shows why that's so important.
So carry on.
So here's a story. We're hunting elk. We're hunting elk in this area that's very checkerboard, and there's a part where the county road cuts through a corner of BLM. So I'm talking, dude, it cuts right through it, clear as day on the map. And that corner right there is the beginning of a BLM for as far as your eyeballs can see out there, So it's a big chunk of land that's in this big nasty canyon. Well, I've had problems on this piece before, and it's so funny because this piece of property, or this area, was not a open unit for elk in the past. The first year it became open bull. All of a sudden, these no trespassing signs started popping up on this corner. Well, I was like, that's wrong, I think, before, years before Onyx Maps. I was like, well, I think it's wrong based off the map, and you're trying to guess. So I was pretty confident back then that I was good to go. Well, the first story was this old lady. Well, we'll talk about the one in the video because that's the best. So I'm hunting there. I check with my Onyx. Sure enough, you zoom right in. There it shows. It cuts right through BLM. So I park on the county road. It's a dirt road. And I get off to this about 60, 70 yards from the road. There's this cliff, and it's a great vantage point. I can see the public for miles and miles and miles. So I'm sitting there, and I already knew going into it that I could get harassed because it had happened 2 or 3 years before that. So I was prepared. I had this argument already built up in my head. I was just ready for somebody to pull the trigger. So I'm sitting there glassing, and a truck goes by and it honks. And I'm like, come on, Like, I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the guy must have turned around, and on his way back, he stopped at my truck. And, of course, you know, I'm alert. I'm aware. I'm kind of like, you know, is this guy going to vandalize my truck? He's going to do something crazy. So I walk over there, and I get my little handheld camera rolling.
Yep.
I pull it out of my pocket, and I kind of vlog myself. I'm like, guys, here's the scenario. I'm sitting here hunting on public land, and I got someone who's going to harass me. So I'm gonna.
And that's all in the video.
It's all in the
you're like
video.
prepping us.
It's so great how he documented it.
Yeah.
You guys are listening. You need to go to the Hushin channel. What's the name of this?
It's called I Got Kicked Off Public Land.
Yeah, look up this video so you guys can get a visual for yourself and experience it. But yeah, carry on.
So, you know, I'm like, all right, I got the camera rolling, but I didn't want to present it in a position that it's pointing at his face because
he's going to change his
story.
And,
So I'm like, all right, I got to kind of hide it, you know. So I held it kind of at my waist.
Yep.
And it's just a small camera, so the guy probably never saw it as I approached him, and he's like, hey. I'm like, hello, you know, very friendly. You're hunting in the wrong area. I said, no, actually I'm not. You know, this is public land. Nope, this is private land. You can't hunt here. And so I kind of was like, no, this is BLM. You know as well. If you know as well as I do, this is BLM. So usually this has happened twice, and both stories are exactly the same. But the guy was like, okay, he knows.
Yeah.
All right. So he changes his story from I'm hunting in the wrong area and I can't hunt here to, well, it's not a big enough piece to hunt, and the Fish and Game cop said I can kick people off of here.
Right. Yep.
Oh my god.
And you're like, should we
like,
just call Fish and Game right now?
I said, dude, I got him on speed dial.
Yeah, the greatest thing is
him all week.
He's got the guy's number on speed dial. This guy chose the wrong guy to try and kick off BLM.
I had this argument already in my head, and so I stayed very calm, but most of the reason why is because this guy's old, dude. Like I said earlier, he's got oxygen tubes coming out of his nose. I mean, he's not much of a threat.
Yeah.
But I was, holding my ground, and I said, sir, if you know this is public land just as well as I do, because those landowners, they know the boundaries.
Oh, yeah. It's their property.
They know. Don't let them, intimidate you out of there. So I said, hey, you know the land? I know the land. Well, then that's when it went to, well, he told me I can kick people off, and I told him right to his face, I said, there's no way. There's no way a fish cop, or, I call them fish cops, fish and game officer, whatever, would tell you that you can kick people off. There's no such thing.
Land. There's no such thing.
There's no such thing. Like, he wouldn't say that. There's no buffer zone. That's what I told him.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, well, this, and he knew I knew.
Yeah.
But then he's like, all right. I said, there's no buffer zone. Once it's the boundary, you got no say. This starts for miles and miles as far as I can see, and he just never gave up. Well, I'm going to call the fish cop. And that's when I was like, okay, I got him on speed dial. I'll call him right now, So he kind of was just trying to pick me apart. He knew I wasn't going to back down, and he gave up. When the follow-up was the funniest thing. So the first thing I do is screenshot my Onyx maps. I send it to the Fish and Game. Because when I go into an area, I had been approached the day before, hey, can I check your license and stuff like that? Of course, I was good to go. So I said, hey, can I have your card? I like to have your information and everything too. So I sent him a text. I was like, hey, just a heads up, Old Man Rogers, apparently was his name.
Old Man Rogers.
I said, Old Man Rogers, stop me out here. Here's a screenshot of where I am. And he replied instantly. He's like, man, I've had troubles with him before. I've already told him to leave everybody alone. Yeah. And I said, well, what'd he say? He says, I'm still going to kick people off. So I'm like, all right. So
at least he's consistent.
Yeah, he is consistent. So, bottom line was he was trying to intimidate me out of there. He was trying to get me to leave. So,
and I've seen that many times where I see a private property sign on public land, where people have private landowners have tried to basically
control,
detour people,
deter you from a certain piece of property where you have a legal right to be there. You own that land as an American citizen, and so the maps really help. I got a story for you. I got a buddy, and we're in Idaho, and we're hunting in on this piece of property, and it's a piece of public land, and I should know this, but I don't. It's either BLM or wilderness, whatever. It's a piece of land that you can't spend the night on. I don't know the state rules for Idaho, but you can't camp overnight.
No overnight camping.
Yep, on this piece, but on this other, which I believe is BLM, you can camp on that. Well, you walk for miles and miles and miles, and there's no place to camp. but on Onyx map, there's this weird 100 by 80 foot square that's BLM out in the middle
of all this
land you can't camp on.
Landlocked by non-camping land.
Yeah. And so you hike in, you're like, dude, this is I could actually camp here miles, and I'm in the middle of it, and it's actually legal. So that happens. And then my buddy gets called by Fish and Game, and they're like, dude, we got to give you a ticket because it was reported that you have a campsite on this land. You're not allowed to sleep on it, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no. There's a patch. I don't know why, but there's this little chunk that's actually legal. And the Fish and Game is like, what? So they look it up, and they're like, you're right. We can't give you a ticket.
Our jurisdiction does not work here. Oops.
He's like, wow. And there's cool things like that. Another piece of property I heard about was, again, there's sometimes you have public land that's landlocked by private.
Yeah.
The only way to get to it is to fly in by helicopter, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's checkered, and there's that argument, if you corner cross, then you're technically trespassing.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, especially
the kitty corner idea. I'm like, well, jump the fence. You're never on anybody's land.
Right. If it's corner to corner, technically you can step here, but the airspace is still private.
I struggle with that one.
There's no. It's not like it's flat. I struggle with it too. Bad. There's this piece of property that's landlocked. Well, that's public land, and it's pretty remote. Well, it turns out that on OnX you could see it, and then there was actually on OnX maps. And this isn't a plug for OnX. It's just they have it.
They have one of the best systems for this.
You can see a road that's public access to this piece of sweet public land that appears landlocked in every way, like an old skid road.
Yeah,
that no one knows is there, but is actually legal. So anyway, I've had a buddy go in, hunt it, and just get into some killer hunting, and then but then still get harassed, right? Because people are like, "Hey, how did you get back here?" And there is a legal route, and they just they're trying to intimidate you off, and the signs everywhere say private, but it's not private.
Yep.
And whenever you're in doubt. My buddies, we call Fish and Wildlife, and we say, hey, there's this point on the map. This is what we're thinking. According to OnX, we see XYZ.
Yep.
Is this true? Is this private or not private? Because we see a sign here that says it's private, and they'll be like, no, that's not private. That sign doesn't belong there. We know about that sign. Ignore it. You have every right to be there. But you wouldn't know a lot of this stuff without the help of OnX.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a very important tool when you're hunting, boundaries and big areas that are checkerboarded and stuff like that.
And the landowner info is in the maps.
Yeah, you can hold on a piece of land, and it'll pop up their mailing address and stuff like that. So if you wanted to contact the landowner, you could. Which
I have found is something that happens all the time. Which, like, my buddy Chad's like, dude, there's this piece of property, and I know there's tags issued for it, but it's this section of land where there's a whole bunch of tags, and he's like, but it looks like there's 30 different owners of the land, and I'm like, well, just go to OnX, and then send them a letter, and just say, can I hunt this? I want to get a tag for this area, excess tags, and he's like, really? And I'm like, dude, the guys on the East Coast. Those whitetail hunters, they got this down.
They have to have it down. We're talking about borders.
When they ask permission, everybody asks permission everywhere because it's all public or private. I mean, but here we are we're so spoiled.
We are
with
really
public land that the idea of asking to hunt on someone's property is I'm not going to ask somebody.
Yeah, I did this year. Chad Mendez and I were out hunting elk on that same area, and we found the big herd with the big bull and the satellites. I mean, every bull in 5 mile radius was with that herd of cows.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it wouldn't hurt to try. So I tracked down a lady named Betsy, older lady. She owned this great piece of property, but unfortunately she had it leased out to somebody But yeah, I mean, I was like super nervous to call, but she was so sweet and nice that I would call and ask permission and all that. So.
And what's the worst that happens?
Just a simple no.
Yeah. That's just not the end of the world.
We talked last night about, just asking for, forgiveness instead of permission. This does not work in this case.
Yeah, in the case of trespassing,
no.
It's not a good idea.
I actually had an experience this year, too, on this same thing. This was actually the first time that this has really happened to me. I was hunting with my wife, Jordan, and we were up hunting the front here, and we were mule deer hunting, and this was during the muzzleloader. And we had been in several different spots that I had been scouting and hunting, and it was funny, with the first spot we went to that we knew we could hunt on had a ton of elk. And here we are trying to chase deer, just like you always have. Right? Yeah. Trying to find mule deer, and we just found a pile of screaming bulls and some fighting bulls, and we had a cool experience. Well, then that evening we go and we hunt into a new area where I'm like, I've seen some bucks in this area, and so let's go try and look and see if they're still in there. Sure enough, we go to that spot, and all these guys are hunting this other side, and they're just like lined up like they are here in Utah on the front. Just everybody's like cars parked next to each other, like glassing on the same ridge, and it's like, come on, guys. So I go on this backside, and as I'm on the backside, I find these 5 bucks all hanging out together. So it was so funny. Here's all these hunters that are less than probably 300 or 400 yards away from me.
Yeah.
And they're all trying to find a buck, and I've got 5 bucks pegged in this spot. But what I did is, going back to Onyx Maps, is I pulled up my Onyx Maps because there was a CWMU up there, and so I needed to make sure that these bucks were not on it. And sure enough, as I looked, these bucks were sitting right on the border. And so I'm like, well, okay, they are on the CWMU, so I need to wait because they were actually feeding off of the CWMU. And there's no fences or anything. So, again, this wasn't even fenced. You just had to know.
Yeah.
But I knew that CWMU was there, and so when I got on Onyx, all of a sudden they finally fed off onto public where I could take a shot, and that's eventually what I did. That's where I was able to harvest that, my biggest mule deer to date this year. And it was because, if I had not known that, not done my homework, not been aware of the area I was hunting in, and been cautious of those things, I might have had a bad experience where I could have shot something. I could have been reported by maybe one of the other hunters. They're like, hey, we just heard a shot. This guy killed a buck.
Yeah.
And it could have been bad, but I didn't. And it goes back to what you guys are both talking about, just knowing where you're hunting, educate yourself, be informed, and know the areas that you have available to you to hunt in.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cool experience that I had this year. And I think one thing that's important, too, because it sounds like both of you, I mean, you obviously had a direct situation with Fish and Game, which you resolved and were like, hey, no, we're good. And you proved that. Yeah. I think one thing is people watch this video of Eric that is kind of a kudos to you, man. And anybody who knows Eric kind of knows how he is. He's not confrontational. He's not trying to I've only seen Eric get mad a few times. When you do, you know he is. But even in his anger, he's very like a mellow, like he's not like loud. The way that you carried yourself, and with that guy who was, you could have just been so rude. You could have really got confrontational, and you guys probably could have ended up just like probably with him not being a physical threat, more words than physical. But I think people need to be also aware of that too. That is that person that you might come in contact with that's maybe claiming something that you know. If you are like Eric and you know and you have proof, you can show it. It helps the situation, but make sure you don't try to make it confrontational.
Yeah.
Talk it through. Understand that they obviously, in his situation, he's been doing this a long time. He knows what he's done. But you were prepared to address that with him and prove that you had the right and you stood your ground and you had every right to do that like you're talking about, Brian. So I think that's important too.
I do too. So, Eric, tell me, like, I've noticed you guys kind of find a lot of different places to hunt. What is your advice to a guy who wants to get out and, find a place to hunt and get on animals and, how does the guy start? How does he do that? Like, say he's from Utah or say he's from the East Coast. How does he find a place?
Yeah, it can get tricky, and it's taken me years and years and years to kind of find some out-of-state areas to hunt. I've always been typical, put in for deer, put in for elk, put in for once in a lifetime here in Utah, and that's what I got, and that's what I got.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I want to, kind of extend my season. I noticed that Nevada had, earlier archery hunts than Utah. So, hey, there's a week that I can go do an extra hunt and not interfere with the Utah hunt. And to be honest, most of the connections I've had from state to state have been through friends, my network, go and help a guy on an elk hunt. who's from Nevada. Then he says
who has a friend or
who he's
dad
appreciative.
Or,
so he says, hey, let me show you where you can go hunt deer, public land, all this. And that's really where it's gone for me. I mean, it's taken years. My first out-of-state hunt was not 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
So I've had great friends. Like I hunted with my buddy Joe from Idaho, and obviously being friends with Casey, and he's an Idaho resident. He was telling me where to put in, the season dates and stuff like that. But if somebody doesn't have those tools, man, it's just online research. Chat forums are very popular. Social media. Hey guys, I'm looking to hunt in Utah. Any suggestions? And people will. I think there's a lot of people out there willing to help other people, and I think that's cool. But for me, it's always been friendships. The networking. Yeah.
The network.
The
cool.
network.
So of your hunts this year, which hunt was your? If you had to say this was the best hunt, what would you say that hunt is? Tell us about it.
Oh, that's a tough question. I hunted with a buddy we've known each other since middle school. His name's Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So back in middle school and high school.
What year was that?
Getting old now. I'm 33. I graduated in 2001.
You're a baby, dude.
But I grew up with my buddy Andy. And, back then we skateboarded a lot, snowboarded a lot. I kind of had moved out of team sports because, I wasn't getting fulfilled, and there was a lot of politics going on in that. And I wanted to do, sports that I had control of my results,
Yeah.
So that, that's what got me into this skateboarding, snowboarding, the gym, and hunting.
Right.
So as I'm growing up and stuff, I got super addicted to shed hunting and filming hunts. My buddy Andy, he was always kind of just, hey, where do you go on the weekends? I go on these shed hunting adventures and stuff. So, now I was his best man at his wedding, but we hadn't really talked a whole lot since, on and off.
Yeah.
He kind of went out, started a family, got married. I was kind of trying to do this hunting career, whatever you want to call it, that I've done. And we reconnected last year at my movie premiere in February, and that's when he had told me that he started getting into hunting, and I was like, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny." Remember when we were kids, you're always kind of like, "Hey, why do you go hunting?"
Yeah,
man, he just wanted to hunt for meat. He loves organic meat, and he wanted to learn more about hunting. So, right around then was the application period for Utah, right around February, and he says, "Man, I want to go deer hunting. Never been."
Yeah.
So I told him, put in for the deer hunt. I'll take you if you draw out, or you're most likely going to draw one of these units. So he put in. He drew out his first choice, and we went hunting this year. We really haven't spent much. We have not spent quality time together since his wedding.
Yeah,
and I was his best man. Did the speech.
Yeah.
You did the speech and everything?
Made everybody laugh.
Oh, nice.
It's just the way you are. It's the Chesser charisma.
It was so scripted, dude.
He's so suave.
I'd never done anything like that, and I'm not a good public speaker. So I'm like, Google, best man wedding speeches. Like, all right, I like that story. I'll kind of tweak it to me and Andy, and it was so scripted.
Andy's like, I don't remember that experience.
Yeah. He's going to tell you it's probably the best speech ever. It was pretty dang funny, I'm not going to lie. But it was mostly researched.
Yeah.
So we hunted this year together on the Utah General Season Hunt.
Uh-huh.
And that was definitely one of the most memorable ones because it was Andy, myself, and my little brother Walker. So growing up in that high school stage, my little brother was 5 years younger, so he's like the baby brother. So it's like now we're grown men, And we went hunting together, and it's so funny because he called it Man Shit 2016.
Is what he called the hunt.
Yeah, the whole weekend. I said, come over and sleep over Friday night. You know? He's living the family life, doesn't get to hunt much, got the wife. And I'm sure he gets out and does other cool things, but he's like, this is like man shit weekend. So he
hasn't had it.
This is a guy who's been penned up a little too long.
He's been under the rock for a really long time.
It's got to feel so liberating and exciting to get out and just do something
even if it's for a couple days.
Yeah, totally.
It's such a release.
And to be part of it for someone else, I remember when I brought a couple friends on that had never hunted before, it was just like a whole new world of just outdoors and manliness that they were. No offense to women either, because they're outdoor tough too. But I mean, it just has that. Yeah,
I'm sure that's how he felt, and he's getting to hang out with. We were best friends growing up. Not that we were not best friends, but he got to get out with me and my brother, and it's just, man, I get the chills just thinking about that moment. Like we worked. It was really just the Friday before, hanging out, going over, shooting the gun, going over everything. I mean, all I told him was bring your tag and some hiking boots. I have everything else for him. Backpack, camo gear, gun. So he just gets to show up, and, I got him all geared up. We shot the rifle. He was very confident with the rifle. And we went out on opening day of Utah's general season. And the night before, we went scouting. I said, let's go look. And we found the biggest buck, like our number one. We found the number one that I found like 2 weeks before that. And I was like, he will be right there in the morning. Made a great game plan, had him bedded at first light. And we had a little bit of not a gun malfunction, but the bolt wouldn't close. And it was so frustrating. We were just shooting this at the gun range the day before. What can be wrong? What can be wrong? The deer's right there, 300 yards, bedded. I'm like, this is perfect.
We need this to work. It's go time.
I'm like, I was in disbelief. I could not believe we had such bad luck. And come to find out, at the end of the bolt, there was just like a blade of grass.
That was stuck.
That would not allow that thing to shut.
Wow.
Buck got away. So it ended up being a good thing, though, because we ended up shooting another buck that I found early in the summer scouting. It was an old buck, regressed downhill. And it didn't matter to Andy what that thing had for horns. He was seeing stakes across the canyon.
Right, yeah.
And
it's awesome.
And it was cool because I was like, hey, if we would have got that buck opening morning right at first light, it would have been great, a nice 4-point. But I'm like, you got to experience those downs to appreciate the highs. So, and he was on a down. Like, he was frustrated. I was frustrated. And it was like, all right, we're going to stay positive. We're going to go to the next canyon and look for these other bucks I saw. And he had just about, not necessarily given up, but he had said maybe we should just hike out, and glass tonight to make it like a scouting. I was like, oh no, this is prime time. The sun's going down. Anyways, he ended up shooting an awesome buck. And looking back on my season, which is not over, by the way, there's still some other hunts to go on.
2 elk, like 5 deer, a couple ducks, and his season's still not done.
That hunt was probably the most memorable this year. And I mean, it's usually the ones where I don't have a tag, where I get to help somebody.
Yeah, Aaron just talked about that the other day. Aaron Snyder. He does a lot of hunts where he helps people, and he was saying the other day, this year he kind of took for himself. He set a goal to go out and hunt with the stick bow and see what he could do with it, and that meant not being able to go on hunts where he helps other people. And he was like, "Look, it was a fun season. It was great, and I accomplished some things, and it helped me with the stick bow struggle through it." But he's like, man, I just really like helping other people, though. And I really enjoy the hunts where I'm just the cameraman.
Where he's behind the scenes just being a part of that experience.
Yep.
Casey did the same thing Aaron did this year.
Yeah.
He just said, hey, I'm gonna do me this year. Because Casey for so many years has been helping me a ton, been helping all of his friends. And that's the thing, like, it's to his character, and obviously talking about Eric, he's a lot like Casey in that same sense, which, Eric and Casey and sounds like Aaron, they enjoy helping other people and get so much fulfillment out of seeing other people's success.
Yeah.
I think that's rare. That's really cool to see that. And so Casey did the same thing this year, and then it was when we finally got to hunt together. He went on so many hunts over here. I went on these hunts over here, and then we finally went on an elk hunt together. That when he saw me shoot my first elk ever, we cried. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I was such a baby girl.
I followed the Instagram channel there.
It was
and I
great.
thought, this is so awesome. He's such a sissy.
And so
he's crying.
And it was funny because Casey, because he's been so selfless, he wanted so badly that he's like, okay, this year I'm fine. Like, I'm going to go do me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do this. But he said in the interview, because the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation did the episode for
recorded it.
Recorded it for their show, Team Elk. He was doing an interview, and I don't see my brother cry very much. No. He's like it's like his tears cure cancer or something. You just never see him cry. And he expressed his gratitude for that hunt and how watching and helping me have that success meant so much to him.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really cool. Like, it's right, because you could have talked about the really cool elk hunt that you had. You had two great elk hunts with you and Chad, and also that you could have talked about the hunt with Casey, all these. And I think each one of those respectively, like, are great hunts.
And they're great hunts.
But you chose a hunt that was the success of somebody else, and that's cool. That speaks to your character, man.
Yeah, I think that's some of my favorite hunts are ones where I didn't actually have the tag. So there's something about giving back and helping other people, especially if that gets them hooked on hunting and they catch a vision.
Yep.
Man, you just brought another person into the fold who's now an advocate, a passionate hunter who now has a stake in conservation and the hunting lifestyle and so forth. I think it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, that was one of my goals this year I set before the season, was to introduce someone who has never hunted into hunting. So hunting with Andy was special. It was his first deer hunt, but he has hunted elk. And then I've bought a CWMU cow elk tag for my buddy Tori, who has never hunted. So same story. Me and Tori grew up together, middle school, high school. Same thing. Like, why do you hunt all the time? And I mean, over these last couple of years, he's kind of expressed like, "Hey, I want to hunt," and I'm like, "Why?" Like, that's so crazy. Like, you guys never hunted. Just watching your videos.
Same here.
And it's like, well, that's really cool.
I've seen the same thing, like in my own circle and my own family. It's like all these people that had no intention of hunting have followed the podcast and they're like, I want to hunt. And that's pretty neat.
It's so cool.
That's really rewarding.
That's what we should all be doing.
Like, I just bought my first rifle. What? You?
Yeah.
You bought a rifle? Yeah. I'm going hunting in, whatever. I'm like, what?
It's crazy.
I think that also plays into what you and Corey talked about last night. It was this morning that you and Corey were talking about this. Just what a privilege we have to be hunters and to hunt. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And the way that we carry ourselves, the way we represent ourselves, the way that you promote hunting, your own personal lifestyle, the way you carry yourself, and vice versa, the way you've carried yourself, and you're showing what you've done for Gritty Bowman. You're only talking about people you immediately know right now within your own circles, respectively. But how many other people who have been sitting on the fence, who have now tuned into your channel or tuned into yours, have come into the fold that you don't know about?
Right.
That is what's so cool, the impact that you two have and what the platforms that you guys have built that have given not only an opportunity for you to have a voice and have an opportunity to educate, but you guys are helping people
get excited
about it, and that's goes back to, like,
it's really rewarding.
It's very rewarding. It's gratifying. It makes what you're doing more meaningful. It's not about you. It's about others.
Then there's people who are just trying to get ahead. So I want to bring this up here. There's this guy out there pretends to be your friend, Shed Crazy.
Oh my gosh,
on Instagram. And he's like, hey, I hang out with Eric Chesser and stuff. And he seems to like Hostess products a lot.
Cosmic brownies.
No, not Hostess. Not Hostess.
Not Hostess?
No, Little Debbie.
Little Debbie.
Yeah, Ben will get really offended if you mess that up.
So this guy, he makes me crack up. But he tell me about Shed Crazy.
Yeah, it's so
He's
funny.
on Instagram.
Yeah,
by the way, and it's just at
Shed Crazy. Yep, just
crazy.
spelled out, no
Shed
spaces
Crazy.
or anything.
Yeah.
Ben, I can't even pronounce your last name.
Yeah, I tried to pronounce it on one of my IG stories once, and I totally botched it.
Sean DeGray sends me, he forwards me every now and then a little thing from his page.
From when he's doing his selfies.
When he's doing a little selfie thing about how to, like, save money on gear.
Yeah.
Or how he likes to, what he puts in his bag.
Right. How to get more friends.
Which is a full bed and a Yeti 1100.
Right.
And, yeah.
He's so funny. I've honestly, I don't think we've ever met in person. If we have,
Really?
I don't remember. Yeah. So how it came about for me was I came across his Instagram page. I remember I followed him, and then Instagram stories came out.
Yeah.
And I remember watching, like, the very first one, of course, is typical, like, hey, is this on? How does this work? Am I live, guys? Does anybody copy? And for the next, like, couple of weeks, I started following these little stories, and I just remember sending him a message like, dude, I love these short videos. They crack me up. Just, like, keep just doing what you're doing, because for those of you guys that don't know who he is, he's just an avid shed hunter, an avid hunter.
He's just
but
a good old boy.
genuine, funny way. he makes fun of the industry.
Which I enjoy doing myself. And we've done a few backpack tests, like the Cliff test, and we've done we spoofed some Yeti products, and we've done some gritty tips. If people haven't seen our gritty tips, you just go to YouTube, go to Gritty Bowman YouTube channel, go to the playlist called Gritty Bits or Gritty Tips.
That's where they're
Yeah,
at.
and it's just a whole bunch of nonsense.
There's like 8 or 9 videos that we're just like...
Which you need to come out with some more.
I know I do.
I loved when we did those ones with the ones we made kind
the
of fun of
weightlifting
mountain
mountain
off.
offs.
yeah.
Like, do
That was
you
one of
even
them.
lift, bro? Or
Yeah, do you even
that
shoot,
one about...
bro?
Hey, spot me, and Jordan comes in with a spotting scope. Like, where is it?
Where is he, bro? Where is he?
He's like,
oh, my bad. We're
Yeah.
like, what's your range, bro?
What's
Let me
the
check.
range?
About 75 kilometers.
Yes, we came up with that on the fly at my family reunion. It was brilliant. And I liked the Yeti one was fun. But all of those making fun of the industry stuff, it's good to be able to laugh at ourselves.
I think you have to be. I think if you're too if it's like walking on eggshells with somebody who's so like because Ben makes fun of mountain ops
all the time.
he makes fun of mountain ops all the time
and working out
just
and being
fitness,
fit.
fitness and working
and the
out.
great thing is we're going to be sponsoring Ben real soon. and I told him, I was like, listen, I don't even care if you don't want to take the products, man. I just love you. I love your videos. I love your personality, and you're just real.
Yeah.
And I think I sit there and it was funny. We're sitting there and whenever one of his videos, and he does those clips too, where he does
memes,
like the meme videos, so brilliant. And so I'm sitting there in my
I just
bed.
remembered one.
Yeah, I'm sitting there in my bed and I'm just laughing my head off at one of the ones that I just love that Ben did is he's sitting there and he goes, yeah, so we've been saving up for a long time. I've been waiting to make that big decision, and it's time, and it's come. And we took out a mortgage, and I'm gonna get that Yeti cooler. It's like, I'm sorry, but a Yeti Rambler or cooler, they're the most expensive things in the world. It is like taking out a mortgage, and
we have a little skit around binos that I haven't put to video yet, but it's another gritty tip. And it's basically you're sitting around in a circle with your buddies and you're hanging out, and a guy's like, hey, what's your bino plan? And the guy's like, well, as soon as my kid graduates from school and I'm done paying for college and my car's paid off, I'm going to start putting money in this account so, I can get my binos. And the other guy has a different plan and a different plan. I sold my car and 2 guns, and now I mortgaged my child, or I sold my child, and right, and you go through this whole thing, and then one guy's like, what's a bino plan? And we're like, dude, what do you mean what's a bino plan? Or I just have these cheap $100 ones. Well, then you're not really glassing. Your heart's not in this game, or whatever. And
that's how
it's funny stuff. It's real. We made one about backpacks. I was like, dude, whenever I have the Kafaru pack on, I shoot well. And whenever I wear the Kuyu one, I miss the target. And we kind of make fun of the industry and some products and stuff. And
I think it's entertaining. It's so funny, man. We had an IG story going back and forth with Shed Crazy.
Oh my gosh, that was
right as we went out to our
funny.
Colorado deer hunt.
that's the one I was following.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
yeah, you kind of had to be connected to my page, his page, and the Get Hushin' page.
Yep.
And it was just like nonstop. So
one of the funniest things about that too was Eric kind of like, there's this guy, and he's totally trying to be my friend, or whatever. And
right.
His name, I don't know, like Shed Crazy or something.
Crazy.
And what did he call you? He called you
Derek Chester.
That's right.
Chester. And what did he call Casey?
Kason Levere.
Casey Levere.
That's right.
But the best thing was he had these names for them, and then he was joking about like
Hanging
so
out
many
with
things.
them.
Yeah.
But Eric,
hey, get out of the bathroom.
Yeah. Eric
Casey, are
puts-
you vlogging in there again?
hey, stop messing around. And he puts out this thing to let everybody know that this is happening. Well, some of his followers think this is legit.
Yeah.
They start attacking Ben and defending Eric, and Eric's like, wow, thank you everybody for supporting me, but it was all just a joke, man.
Yeah, I let it drag on all day though. I mean,
he was loving it.
I was so serious. Everyone's like, even all my good friends are like, dude, you're so serious. Like, is this really happening? Like, this is crazy. He's acting like he knows you.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I was like, Ben will love the attention. I said, yeah, guys, you need to go over there and tell Shed Crazy to stop lying, just to act cool and be more popular. And then you should have seen the messages that came through. I mean, all the people that followed me, some of them were just like, you don't know him. Obviously, you don't know his name. You called him Derek. You know?
Oh, it was so funny.
And Ben would just like run with it. His reply would be like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be more popular. You know, like
yeah, he has the best responses. And Casey, my brother Casey, is actually the one who introduced me to Ben. Casey would come into the office every day and would have like a new Jordan, you got to watch this. And I'd be like, who is this kid?
Well, he did this one the other day when you have a mosquito buzzing in your face, and he did this little video.
Oh,
where he takes
the one with Will Ferrell.
With Will Smith.
Will Smith. Yeah, and
it looks like he's swatting a mosquito, but it's kind of dumb. And I looked at that one, and I was like, oh, it's kind of funny. But then I read what he wrote, and he said, this might be the stupidest one I've ever made. I almost didn't even watermark it out of embarrassment. Then I decided just to be proud of it. That's classic.
Oh, dude, he's pretty raw and real.
He's funny.
I really enjoyed following him, and it's funny that you guys never met, right? Mm-hmm. And you just start sharing some stuff and do this whole social media thing for a day or two, and carry on this thing. It's fun to see the interaction between people in the industry, and I don't know. I thought it was creative and funny, and I really enjoyed it. So
yeah, and the funniest thing is it wasn't planned.
Yeah,
you know,
it just happened naturally.
Brian BMAC, you know, he challenged Shed Crazy to conquer the Conquer Hunger
challenge we did last month. Yep,
and that's what this whole thing was for, to bring awareness to the Conquer Hunger. He
program. Was funny as and that's where he was talking about Little Debbie's.
Yeah, that's where he kept. Oh, remember he opened his cupboard and it was chock full.
So Ben texted me and he's like, This shows a little bit, if people think that he's ruthless and just unthoughtful and uncaring or anything like that because of just how funny and really is, he's not. He texts me and he says, Jordan, did you watch the story and stuff? Like I did he genuinely did the Conquer Hunger challenge, and he joked about how like he had to go without all these Debbies. And he kind of made light of it. It's very
big time.
But the thing was, is he texted me. He's like, Jordan, did I offend you? Are you okay? And I was like, are you kidding me, Ben? Like that. The way you did it is the way you do it.
Yeah.
And that was great. You got to, we're talking about making fun of the industry. We're not making fun of like hungry children, but we're taking light of the situation, which in fact brought more awareness around it because of what you guys actually did. So it worked out so flawlessly.
Have you seen how he's flipped the Sheds for Santa to help save Sawyer?
Sawyer did it too.
Yeah.
Because Sawyer did the Conquer Hunger challenge as well. And so now he's got a box of Debbie's that he's photoshopped, and it's all about like doing an auction to save Sawyer.
Yeah, Sawyer lost 26 pounds getting pneumonia and just through the hunting season and stuff. And Shed Crazy's like, we all need to pitch in and help Sawyer gain his 26 pounds back.
Yes.
Everyone's giving cosmic brownies is like the big thing.
The cosmic brownies is what he's doing. He literally has an entire. He was just him and I were just sending videos back to each other on this text thread, and I was just kidding with him, and I was just like, yeah, like I bet you really don't have that many Debbies. This is before. And then he opens up his cupboard and he's like, do you believe me now? I was like, holy cow, man.
I was like, does he work at the factory?
You might need to work on that a little bit with him so he's fit.
Just balance up.
Balance it out.
Yeah, it's all about balance.
A little more.
But Shed Crazy, like if you need a good laugh and you need a break and you're on social media, go check out Ben at Shed Crazy on Instagram. That guy will keep you rolling.
That's right. On another note, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what do you feel like this year? What besides telling me what hunt was your favorite? Going forward, or I guess reflecting on the past year, what weapon have you enjoyed hunting with the most?
Oh, man. For me, it's my Hoyt bow, man. I love it. I love these, shorter season, out-of-state rifle hunts where you can go out and have a great hunt with your buddies. You can, obviously it's a little easier to get those bucks at long range or what you may consider a longer range shot coming from archery. But I'm the kind of person who loves a challenge. And that's what archery hunting is. It's a challenge, not just physically, but mentally.
Okay. So if you could only hunt one animal for the rest of your life, and you had to pick one going forward, what animal would it be? What species?
Sitting behind him right now.
Yeah, I'd have to say elk. With a bow, elk in the rut, man. I mean, does it get better?
It's like a dinosaur.
A lot of people are like, hey,
tree growing out of its head, right? Like
they're easy. That's easier than deer.
Screaming at you.
They're vocal. It's easier, but man, yeah, they're so vocal and they're such big animals. I love archery hunting elk, but my goal next year is an archery velvet mule deer.
Oh,
I think I'm on that same.
I still have not shot a buck in velvet, mostly because in the past I had no interest to shoot velvet. I was a hardhorn guy. I'm a shed hunter, first.
I feel you.
And I was like, I'll let them rub them and polish them out, and I'll get them on the late hunt,
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I want a velvet buck, and it's not only because the antlers are in velvet; it's the time of year.
The experience.
I can backpack into high country. I can sleep in a hammock. I can be in shorts in the day. Like it's the whole difference of terrain, weather, and the challenge.
South Cox has talked to me about it a lot, and he's like, "Look, you can hunt mule deer in the rut, and they're just stupid, especially late season. Get out to hunt like that, and it's just a blast because it's just insanity."
Mm-hmm.
But then he's like, the flip side to that is you can hunt, elk, or you can be into. While they're still in velvet, they're in those bachelor herds, and they're just not cautious.
Yeah,
they're kind of like. They get sloppy, and they're different. It's almost like you're hunting a different species before they shed that velvet, and then they shed the velvet, and boom, it's like
they're gray ghosts. They're elusive.
Yeah, and so part of it is just the fun of hunting them while they're in velvet, when their behavior and personalities are such that they're a different kind of hunt.
From what I've seen, they're patternable that time of year. They're with their bachelor group, you can kind of you can like scout them and study them and kind of ambush them.
In Colorado, like Nevada, there's a ton of hunts where you can do those hunts over the counter.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So if you're a backpacker kind of guy, you get your pack and head out there. It's also you're not at risk of freezing to death or stuff. It's summertime mostly. It's still late August, early September. I think it's a great out-of-state hunt for anybody who wants that Western style hunting, someone from the East Coast who wants to come in and experience it. Aaron and I have been talking about it. It looks like that's what we're going to do this year is high country mule deer in velvet.
That's what I was looking for. The first year I hunted Nevada, going back to our earlier conversation about out-of-state hunts, was an early mule deer hunt with a bow, high country, and that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for granite rocks, cliffs, pine tree shoots, everything you see in these videos, or the things that you've seen in the past.
And 220 inches of buck.
Yeah,
it seems like they're
everywhere.
They're everywhere. Like they're out and about in a way they're not as soon as they shed that velvet.
Yeah, it definitely changes once it comes that transition period where they shed the velvet and their patterns change and everything.
I was like you. I didn't want to hunt bucks in velvet because I like that beautiful hard horn, But then I was watching. I've been at South's place and I've seen like this 2-something inch, 220 inch or whatever, just velvet beast, and I'm like, that's just gorgeous. And even since then, I've changed my mind. Like I think velvet's super cool. I was at Zach's house a couple weeks ago, Zach Griffith, in the basement. And I filmed that their little man cave. Woman cave.
The Rock Zach cave.
The Rock Zach cave. There we go.
Rock Zach. Yeah, Rocky. She got a freaking stud in
she
the muley.
did,
and a late season velvet muley. I mean, it was a nice buck.
Yep.
Yeah, that was.
There's
crazy.
something to be said about the kind of the aesthetics of that
look.
Yeah, that look.
It was really. So when I saw it, I saw a bunch of bucks down there too, and no, a lot of times though, velvet is hard to preserve, and so I've seen them where they spray it on after the fact, and it really does not look legit to me. But then I've heard how it can just rot off or be damaged trying to get it off the mountain in time and stuff like that. If you want to preserve that part of the animal, and so that's something I've talked to South about a little bit in earlier podcasts how you do that, and it doesn't sound like it's that easy.
It doesn't. Like I've seen so many hunts where I'm like, dude, velvet is mint, and then next thing I know, that person, it may be just someone I'm following on social media. Next thing I know, the guys had to strip it; it couldn't be saved. I'm like, why not? You know,
it's like, days,
Must be a
hours.
lot more to
like
it
you
than
don't
I know.
have a lot of time.
You've got to get it right to the taxidermist and get that thing
Yeah.
taken care of.
well, I mean, I haven't heard of that podcast. Do you freeze it first? Do you inject it with
It's
formaldehyde?
been a while.
What
It
do you
was
do?
like podcast number 2, 3, and 4, something like that. So it's been a while.
That's like
I'm
high
like
school
at
for him.
180 podcasts now. So,
Dang.
but I should get someone back on and discuss that, because taxidermy as well, because
Yeah.
I think it's a cool topic, and I haven't actually had a taxidermist on the Gritty Bowman specifically for that. It's kind of dumb because
I love taxidermy stuff lately.
Me
I've been
too.
getting more, not like I want to be a taxidermist, but more into having my animals mounted.
yeah,
To where in the past I was like, I love, just
You
the
love
the
European
Euro
mounts.
Mhm.
When I got the Fireball, like the emotion that went through me when I saw him for the first time and almost like relive that moment.
yeah.
That's what my mounts mean to me. They carry the memories that hunt has.
Let's talk about that though, because there are some people who look at that and are like, they see this kind of mount as disrespectful to the animal.
Yep.
And as a shallow reason for hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And from their perspective, it's often from the outside looking in, it's not a.
They use the term trophy.
Trophy hunt.
Hunt. They consider it a trophy hunt, and it's so funny because
They question the motives.
they question the motive because of what the outcome is and what you use it as
Yeah.
a representation, right? And I think that's important. Something to talk about is.
What do you think about that, Eric?
Well, that's funny. I was thinking about this just recently because I was digging through a box that had a bunch of my fitness trophies. And I looked at those, and it's like, wow, it's something tangible that I was given because I worked for it. Okay, so this trophy, whether it's a soccer trophy I got when I was a kid, a trophy from the film festival I got.
Spelling bee.
Spelling bee winner. Did you get one?
I have.
Wow. I would never win
Does
that
that
one.
surprise you?
I'm actually based on the previous podcast. I'm super impressed right now. Spelling bee for Brian.
That's
awesome.
insane.
I would be excited about that. That's awesome.
But anyways, yeah.
Think about it though.
So you
So it's
have
like,
this
all right.
trophy, right? And it's like,
what is a trophy? What is a trophy? And when I think of what a trophy is something I earned.
Mm-hmm.
So, like say I won a soccer trophy, I must have practiced. We beat the other teams.
Yeah.
And I was given this trophy. And to me, that trophy is something tangible that I have that holds those memories.
yeah,
If I don't have that trophy, I may not remember it as much. But if I physically have that, I might remember it more. So for me, I've built this barnwood wall in my house. And it's not very big, but it holds, let's see, right now it holds 5 mule deer.
mm-hmm.
One is my first archery buck ever. And one is a buck that my dad shot 45 years ago that I mounted for him for Father's Day. And the other 3 are bucks my brother got on hunts I was with him on general season hunts. So to me, the mount I've mounted animals that most people, that maybe they're not big enough to mount. But I'm mounting the memories. I'm not mounting the animal.
yeah,
So it's something that you can visually see and hold and touch that holds those memories that you made through the experience.
yeah.
It doesn't mean the meat didn't get eaten. It doesn't mean the meat was wasted. In fact, I believe that it's more of an honor to honor the animal and put it on the wall and respect it like that, to where other people see it as disrespect.
I feel the same way. I've thought for a long time, like I almost feel guilty if I've killed it and I don't I don't display it.
Yeah, what should be done?
dismissed it.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about the context, right? You always talk about, hey, as we're hunting and we're presenting and trying to explain to people our hunts, whether that's through video, through picture, whatever, we have a responsibility to provide the context of that so that they understand the real intent.
Yeah.
And so I think oftentimes an individual on the outside is looking at that mount and not understanding the context of the experience and what you just described that emotionally happened to you, the memories, the hardships, all that, and the utilization of that animal that you used in meat. I think you're both on point with what I agree 100% with what you guys are saying. You're honoring that animal. That is something like a little league trophy or a spelling bee or for men's physique or whatnot. You all of a sudden have this flood of memories of remembering and having gratitude for that opportunity and that experience. And that animal who you took its life, and then utilized its meat to feed not only yourselves but maybe friends and family.
But I think from the outside looking in, it's really the motives for why you do what you do, right? So when you say that a lot of people wouldn't mount it because it's not big enough and you want to mount it anyway, to me, what that tells me about you as a person is that you're not mounting it because you want the praise of all these people from the outside. You're not saying, look, my whatever's bigger than yours, or you know what I mean? You're not sitting there pounding your chest. It's not a bragging thing.
No.
It's a thing where you're like, these are my memories, and it's a special thing for me. And there's a connection there between me and this animal, and I want to show it respect, and this is how I show it respect. And where I think people are turned off is when it's clear that a hunter, has gone out, killed it solely to mount it on the wall.
Yeah. Tell me if you guys think I'm off base when I say this. Okay, I think when you use the word trophy, I think that people automatically start thinking of like, oh, this is
size.
I think it's 100% negative context. I think we should get rid of the word trophy.
When I say monument, what do you think of?
I think of
a big protected land.
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore, right? Something that's representative of like either an event, something that is respected, honored. I mean, all the words that you just used, I immediately went to like a monument. Like for you, the industries for so long used the term, trophy hunter. It's the trophy, and that's both good and bad, depending on who's looking at it and how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
But I agree with Eric. I think when you're presenting it in the way that you're describing it, that it's not so much about the size of this animal, or it's a monument to you. This is a piece of history in your life that you're displaying for anyone that wants to appreciate it, whether they're just appreciating the beauty of the animal itself, the mount, but to you and how you appreciate it, or how we appreciate our own mounts, if you will, I think is a monument, because it's something that we're honoring them. It's something that is dear to us. I'm getting the elk that I just got this year, my very first elk. It was a great 6x6 that I got. I was very blessed and fortunate. My brother Casey was there. It was a huge hunt, and that animal, I can say this. So my dad has this one elk. He only got one elk. Casey, can you? I'm gonna interject. Casey, he's behind the cameras. Everybody, Dad never got another elk, big bull elk besides that elk, right? Just cow elks, right? That elk, and it's funny because my mom and dad ask, what do you guys want? Like when we pass on, what's something that you want? And Casey was like one of the first ones to step that. He's like, I get Dad's elk and I get Dad's buffalo. Because Casey, we both were a part of the elk hunt, but Casey was a part of this buffalo hunt. And that elk mount has been in our dad's office and has always been a reminder of this amazing hunt that the three of us shared in Colorado, and has been a monument, for our dad in bringing us up in hunting. Yeah. And so it is when you're
there's
on
connection.
There's a connection there.
I feel that way, especially with certain mounts like my blacktail mounts. I feel a stronger connection to some of those than I do others, just because of the history and the time it took to get one, and it was such a difficult animal to kill. I'd seen it on camera for a couple years. Those sorts of stories, right? One thing that I heard one time was this Shane Mahoney. He's a conservationist. He was on Randy Newberg's podcast and a couple other ones. And I think he has a podcast of his own called Conservation Matters. And he said, if you take a bunch of kids and they're all in the room, toddlers and stuff like that, and you give them like puzzles and toys and little cars and stuff, they're driving them around and stuff. In the whole room, all the kids are focused on whatever kind of electronic doodad toy thing that they like, like they're little monkeys that are having fun with all the little gadgets. Then he said, you walk into that room with little kids with a puppy, and what do all those kids do?
Run to the puppy.
They drop all their toys and they go to that puppy. That is fascinating to me. And what he was illustrating was we as humans have an extreme draw toward animals. Like, we find them fascinating for who knows why. It's in our DNA. And so it's not that hard to realize, as a hunter, that how much we could admire and be fascinated by animals. And then, of course, we have to eat, and so we're going to hunt them and so forth. And we start to learn about them, and it grows into now I'm following their behavior. Now I actually want to pursue this animal, because it's not just the harvesting of it, the fireball, but it's also trying to read his mind, become like him, understand him, follow his footsteps, and really, really get to know elk on another level that you wouldn't if you weren't pursuing him to try to get him. And then you get him, and what do you want to do? You just want to stare at him every day afterward. Like, there's still this fascination whenever I walk in here, I'm just staring at this elk behind us because he's just fascinating. And I think it's built into that DNA. And what I'm getting at is when people come to my house and they're non-hunters, and some even borderline anti-hunters, they come in, what's the first thing they do? Every single one of them go straight to my bear rug, go straight to my mount. If I have antlers on the wall in a European format, they just glance up and they keep looking. They don't stare at it. They're just like, oh, antlers.
Yeah.
It's like hooks that you hang a hat on or something. It's like there's no connection. When it's taxidermist, when it's an actual deer coming off the wall and you see the eyes and the nose and the face and the shoulder, it doesn't matter how big those antlers are. People stare at it. My kids stare at it.
Yep.
Whenever we go to a friend's house that has that kind of stuff in there, everyone, the first thing they do when they walk in the room is they stare at all the animals.
That's so funny you say that, because that's what my barnwood wall has become, and that's part of the reason why I want to keep adding to it, because as soon as people walk in my house, right to the wall, and their questions, where'd this one come from? And like, I get to relive those memories.
And they're not even hunters.
No, they may not even hunt. They're just like, well, what's the story on this buck? Well, let me tell you, And man, all the animals I have mounted, I can tell you in full detail, because those hunts I remember more than the racks that may just be set aside in the garage.
We had a bunch of I baptized my daughter on Saturday. We had all these friends and family come over, and I have my big bear rug, big black bear rug, like 7x7 square rug on this ottoman, this big ottoman, and the kids and all these like toddlers and little kids, they come running in and they're like, oh,
a bear.
Yeah, and they're sticking their hand in its mouth and they're feeling the teeth. They're like, oh, sharp, and they're grabbing the claws and they're playing with the claws and stuff. And then they're laying on the fur and they're going, oh, and one of them, he can barely talk and he's like, so soft and so sharp, and he's like playing with this bear rug. And the other kids come in who don't have hunting dads and stuff, and they're hanging out and they're looking at the rug and they say, ooh, wow. And they're like almost afraid to touch it. And the little kids are like, touch it, feel it, and they're feeling this rug. And then my daughter walks up and goes, we love this rug. We sleep on it all the time. It's in the living room. We, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, they taste good too. And the kids look at them with these open jaws and they're like, yeah, we ate him.
Yeah, we ate him.
We ate him. And it's not disrespectful, but my kids know where meat comes from.
Yeah,
right?
I have a similar story which involves my buddy Andy, who was on that deer hunt I talked about earlier. This year I shot a buck on the Wasatch Front with my bow. It was late season, so it was super cold. And I got it home and woke up the next day and planned, I don't have a garage, so I planned to take care of it and skin it and, pull the meat off outside. Well, it kept raining, so I was like, well, why don't I just drag it inside? So I drug it on a tarp in my living room. I'm about halfway done. Knock, knock, knock. My buddy Andy must have seen on Instagram that I was doing this deer. He's like, I brought my kids over. I was
That's awesome.
You could ruin them forever.
Yeah.
If they see this, or maybe they'll learn. So he brings them in and he's like, wow, I'm surprised they walked in so quick and they had so much interest. They were just looking at it and asking questions and, that's kind of gross, but it's not as bloody as I thought, they kept saying. And I had deer jerky in the fridge and he got some of that out and they both tried it, which I was very surprised because some people are just mentally like, ew, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this jerky. And I was like, yeah, so this is, this is the deer. Here's the front shoulder and everything, how it works. And I was like, so, things like steak and hamburger, this is where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to believe that, a lot of people, especially these younger generations, they don't even know where the steak comes from or hamburger.
No. You have no idea where that meat has been before it got to the shelf.
And think about how much they learn about the body. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, that's what a heart looks like. We have this tradition whenever I shoot a deer, I cut the legs off. This might sound morbid to some people, but I think it's fascinating. Anatomy is cool. And each kid gets a leg. and then if you pull on the tendon, the hoof goes like this and waves. So they walk around going like this and waving with this leg. That lasts about an hour or two, and they're laughing, and then then we usually give them the dogs or chuck them. But I think it's cool for kids and for families to understand that stuff, and that's where for me I think the taxidermy thing. I don't get to observe wolves that often right up close, right? Now I'm going to have one in the house, probably full body. Yeah. And it's just fascinating to look at it to me and to admire it. And it's, for me, it's a show of respect for that animal. I value it as a species. I value it as a part of nature and part of this planet and my relationship, to that animal. I don't know. I like that. And like I said before, when it's just antlers, it's a different response that people give me than when it's, I think it brings it home that this was a live animal in a way that antlers don't necessarily do.
I think it even goes as deep as it's interesting, just sheds. The animal itself, some people think, why are these guys picking up these antlers? And it's so weird. And this guy over here is shed full. I mean, that's one of the things he's loved so much, and he actually let me and Casey and Matt come on a shed hunt with him. And I didn't understand. I really didn't understand, like, why. I mean, I got it a little bit, but never done it. So I was like, I don't understand how this is so, like, cool. And,
why you make such a big deal out of it?
Why are you going out and glassing a hill just to find antlers? Like, I know, like, why don't you just go kill the animal that's got them? That's kind of what I didn't know. I didn't understand. And so Eric calls Casey and I and one day, and he's like, hey, we're going to shed hunt tomorrow. We're like, okay, cool. We're going to shed hunt tomorrow. This is how Eric is. He's like, we're going. So we went, and the sheds that are actually sitting behind you are two of the sheds from the fire bowl before Eric harvested at him. And then those other browns that you see are some sheds that Casey and I found with Eric in this area that he took us to. And so we went, and I still remember, like, I look at that shed, just talking about going the parallels, going from a mount like this to even just an antler. I look at that, and I remember that moment when I saw the antler. Like, Eric's like, this is the brown town, this is the bone zone. Like, guys, just start glassing, and me and Casey are walking up, and Casey's up a little higher than I am, and Matt's, he was kind of higher than that. And all of a sudden, I remember looking, I just see the tine. I'm like, that's not, and I look, and I go, oh my gosh. I'm like, Eric. And Eric's like right by me. He's like, what? I'm like, I just found one. He's like, are you serious?
And now you're shedicated.
Now I'm shedicated. And I remember just picking up that antler, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this animal just, like, dropped it right here, and I just found it. And then that, like, within seconds, all of a sudden Casey's like, oh, cool, like, I got one too, like, right here. So Casey found the other side. And so it was cool. That was, like, Casey had never really done shed hunting. The only sheds Casey and I ever found is if we tripped over them or we found, like, little 2-points or spikes. Yeah. And so now, like, when I look at those sheds, I love those sheds because it's something that me and my brother did and shared together. Outdoors. It was our very first sheds that we found. It was a set that we found together. So it's interesting. Even too, some people will go and get, like, the sheds of an animal that they didn't even harvest, but they found those sheds because of how much that memory and all that meant to them too as well. So it goes not only to the animal and the respect for that and honoring that monument, if you will, but also even to sheds. I didn't understand that until you took us out.
Eric, tell the truth. You planted that, didn't you, to make Jordan feel better about himself?
He absolutely did. I wasn't going to tell him until next year when they really found their own. No, that was fun.
This guy's crazy. We go out and we're shed hunting, and this is something that Eric is deeply passionate about. In fact, his shed hunting is a part of how him and I and Casey all got connected long before Mountain Ops, because he was with another company that was fascinated by that and was well known in the state for it. And so it was kind of cool to be a part of. I'd always watch Eric's videos and kind of watched him do shed hunting, and to see him in action that day when he actually found. This was a team effort, but Brian, you want to talk about finding a needle in a haystack?
That's how Eric Snyder is.
Yeah, he just pulls up his glass and he's like, I think I got something. And I'm like, where? And he drops his spotter down and he goes, yep, that's the front. okay, guys, we got one. And this is like half a mile on this slope that he finds us. And we end up going, and it's this massive
that was cool.
shed. And we spent the whole rest of the day dedicated to just glassing that entire. And finally, as a team, Casey and Eric go over, and me and Matt are kind of holding back, kind of glassing, helping, and we're talking on the radios. Okay, like what's going on? And you guys seen anything? And then all of a sudden, was it Eric or Casey?
Yeah. I found it. Went lower.
It was so funny because we spot it, and as soon as he found the other half to it, we immediately were like, how did we miss that? You know,
I was on the radio like, Jordan, I was so serious because I hadn't found a really solid elk shed for a while.
Yeah.
I was like, Jordan, I need your help. I need you and Matt to glass everything.
Leave no stone.
It's like I was very serious. Usually I'm just jokey and like having fun, but I was like, you guys need to glass. So once I said I could spot it right below me, they go, holy cow, we can see it now. So it was there. They just hadn't picked it out yet.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of a cool thing to be
you
a
gotta
part
have the
of.
eye.
You have to have the eye.
You get the hang of it.
He's got a pair of eagle eyes on this kid. Seriously. But those monuments, I always, that word trophy is tough, but and I'm not saying that it's bad, and if people consider themselves a trophy hunter, that's okay.
Yeah, it's the word that kills it, because they go trophy. Oh, you shot it for its size, but I could have a 2-point that to me is a trophy. It's my trophy. It's my memories, but when you hear trophy, it's like instantly to size. Like
people just go there and
biggest antlers or the best fur.
Yeah,
so that's a tough word.
The trophies, it is a tough word. We got to think of a different one.
Yeah, I was just thinking, what can we call them?
Yep.
Monties.
Yeah,
monuments. These guys are Monties. Check out the Monty I got in all these.
I think
Monties.
that might have some other meaning. I'm not sure.
Maybe we should
stay away from
just
that.
think about that a little bit deeper.
Well, guys, any parting words? Anything you want to? Any closing sentiments?
All I want to say is every time I do this podcast, which I've only done it twice, is I'm like, how are we going to talk for so long? And I'm like, we got a lot more to talk about.
I know. We just got started.
I'd love to be on another podcast with you. This has been a lot of fun.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Eric, thanks for being on.
We got fitness to talk
about.
I know.
You could dive into shed hunting.
There can be shed hunting.
You really do need to get into shed hunting because
it's coming up.
It is. Season is coming up, and it's a whole big deal.
I get a lot of questions about it, so there's a lot of things you can go over.
Cool.
But yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah, and for everybody that's tuning in on this podcast, we're obviously doing this around December time. Upcoming is the Western Hunting Expo in February, and we're fortunate at Mountain Ops that we're going to have both the Gritty Bowman, who will be doing more podcasts at the Western Hunting Expo, and also we'll have the Hush crew in the booth, and it's going to be a really, really fun experience. So anybody who's in Utah or the surrounding states, make sure you come to the Western Hunting Expo and come check out the booth and have a lot of fun.
Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, and what's really neat about that show is it strictly is hunting.
Yeah,
it's all just
there's no fishing there, and nothing against fishing. I love fishing, but I'm just saying that it's really big game.
Yep.
I mean, a huge part of that is a big game, and there's it's an incredible.
The amount of money
weekend
that they raise for conservation in those 4 days is incredible.
Yeah, it's a great show, man. It kind of, for me, over the years, it's kind of been like everything you accomplished throughout the whole hunting season and year, you get to share with people for 4 days. And a lot of people on social media are there. Everyone's taking selfies with each other. But it's fun, man. I've seen a lot of talk about it already on social media. People that are traveling a long ways to come do it.
There's always great presentations and seminars put on by various individuals. Corey Jacobson, last year, he did a bunch on calling elk and stuff. And there's always, I think Christy Titus did some.
And we'll be having Jason Phelps and Corey Jacobson in the booth doing some head-to-head bugles.
Nice.
We'll also have Shed Crazy and Twerk for Bucks having a protein pancake eat-off. There's going to be so much fun. I mean, I can go on and on. We're going to be doing a 5K run with Cameron Haynes.
You're going to have the buffalo again?
Yeah.
I mean, not the buffalo.
We'll have
bull.
Ops the Bull is going to be there, so we're going to have bull rides.
Bull rides.
Hush is going to even have like a photo op opportunity to come do some fun stuff with the fire bull. Like it's
just fun.
We're probably going to have another podcast
weekend
here just to tell people
pretty laid back
how much fun they're going to miss out on if they don't come.
Yep.
It's gonna be.
Don't be that guy.
It's a fun show. Like, honestly, I mean, I before when I came, I was living in Portland. It's like a 12-hour drive or a flight, but just came down today from Colorado. It was like 7.5 hours from Evergreen. It's not a bad drive. And it's not a bad flight, for a lot of us, especially in the Western states, and it's a fun show. It's a cut above the rest as far as a consumer show goes. Mm-hmm. I've been to the Northwest Sportsman Show, which I love. That's where I grew up. That's where I went.
Is that the show in Oregon?
Yep.
Okay.
Went to that show all the time, but I will say that the Western Hunt Expo is on another level.
Yeah, and that's because Mountain Ops is there. And Hush. And Gritty.
Hey, Mountain Ops was at the Portland show too.
That's
where I first met Casey.
That is where Casey.
That's where Gritty Bowman was born with Snyder.
I remember when Casey was like, yeah, that's where Gritty
conceived.
Bowman and Mountain Ops were conceived. Thanks.
That's right. True. It's where it was
plug,
conceived,
Casey.
Not born.
I do remember that though. Casey's like, I'm going up to the Portland show, and Casey served a service mission for his church up there, and so he was excited to just go back to his old stomping grounds. And then I talked about when the Mormon
when I was
doing business on the last podcast.
When I was up there, and I was like, so what's this Mountain Ops stuff that you guys are all wearing right in the middle of the podcast? And but no, it was neat, the whole thing. So
and that's
anyway,
a great show.
It is a great show.
Are great. But
last year they happened on the same weekend, which was a real bummer because I wanted to go to both.
Way?
I don't think they.
So the week before?
The Portland show is a week before the Hunt Expo. So
cool.
So it looks like that won't be a conflict because Phelps and Triple X. I really wanted to see
good old Corey and those guys.
Corey Miller and stuff, and I wasn't able to go to their show in Portland because I got roped into this one, forced into the Hunt Expo.
Yeah, I literally held him down.
to.
Oh, I held him down. I was like, "You're coming." He's like, I
So,
don't want to.
Got a lot of fun shows, but that's one of the highlights. If people can make it, they should really try. It's a fun show. So anyway, there's that plug. Thanks guys for coming on the Gritty Bowman.
Thank you.
And stay gritty.
As
Hush
always.
Life. # Mountain Ops.
This is how I conquer.
Bye guys.
See you guys.
See ya.
In 1907, only 41,000 elk remained in North America, and in 1950, only 12,000 pronghorn remained. Today, there are more than 1 million elk and 1.1 million pronghorn. Why? Because hunting is conservation. In 1937, hunters actually requested an 11% tax on guns, ammo, bows, and arrows to help fund conservation. That tax so far raised more than $8 billion for wildlife conservation. Altogether, hunters pay more than $1.6 billion a year for conservation programs. No one gives more. It's obvious that hunters care about animals, and yet we actively hunt and kill them. Many people cannot understand this dichotomy. How can we both care about animals and also kill them? It's a question that I challenge all of you to consider. Here is an excerpt from the Gritty Bowman film, Alberta, with a quote from Fred Bear that describes my feelings on this subject. The first shot on this buck was fatal, and it cleanly pierced his vitals, but he didn't go down. I hate to see animals suffer, and when possible, I will always shoot them again if I have the opportunity. I have tremendous respect for this buck and his will to survive. He didn't go down easy, and I have mixed emotions about that. At times like this, I am reminded of a quote by Fred Bear, which somewhat describes my thoughts on this matter. Quote, I have always tempered my killing with respect for the game pursued. I see the animal not only as a target, but as a living creature with more freedom than I will ever have. I take that life if I can, with regret as well as joy, and with the sure knowledge that nature's way of fang and claw and starvation are a far crueler fate than I bestow. I do not hunt for the joy of killing, but for the joy of living, and the inexpressible pleasure of mingling my life, however briefly, with that of a wild creature that I respect, admire, and value. We can argue as much as we like, but the fact is, hunting is man's oldest and most successful try at life. Every human being is alive today because our ancestors hunted. So it's a relatively new phenomenon for people to regard hunting as a cruel and frivolous activity that has no worth outside of personal gratification for the hunter. The funny thing is, hunting has increased my appreciation for wild animals and wild places, not decreased it. And as I watch society lose its ties to wildlife and conservation, I feel my bond with nature grow ever stronger in direct correlation to my time spent hunting. I understand now more than ever that hunting is the greatest hope for creating the next generation of true conservationists. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting in the outdoors. Our wild animals and wild places depend on it. We thank Kifaru, Mountain Ops, Hoyt, Vortex, Phelps Game Calls, Black Eagle Arrows, and Crispy Boots for supporting the Gritty Bowman. We love these companies and the people behind them. They truly make fantastic products. Please support them however you can. As always, good luck on your hunts and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.